Hi, my name's Rob Scott from CX Today, and a very warm welcome to our CX Today launch event. So today I'm joined by three top customer experience technology vendors, Landis Technology, Luware, and Geomant, and we're going to be discussing building a contact center with Microsoft Teams. So welcome everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me. And just before we dive in, why don't we just have a quick round of introductions? Matt, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I'm Matt Landis, and I'm CEO of Landis Technologies, and we make add-ons to complete out your team solution, whether that's contact center, call recording, or attendant console.
Fantastic. And Philip, would you like to go next?
Yeah, more or less the same space as Matt. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Philip. I'm the CEO and founder of Luware. We do everything you need in Teams to make it PBX replacement, come from attendant console over a little bit more complex routing than auto attendant call queues into contact center and have compliance recording as well. Doing that for 10 years now. We have a couple of interesting customers, so happy to be on your board. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Philip. And Peter.
Thank you. My name is Peter Hobor. I'm CTO and CPO of Geomant. I have, more than 20 years of experience around contact center. Started at Lucent Avaya, and that's my 18th year of Geomant, where we are similarly working with Microsoft partners and customers. We were a system integrator, and by now we became a cloud technology vendor and service provider. We have offices in US, UK, throughout EMEA, and unfortunately we didn't have the chance to properly celebrate our 20th anniversary because that was last year, but we have still a few parties on hold.
Well, I'm with you on that. I'm sure there's a number of parties on hold right now. But thanks for joining me, everyone. It's going to be an interesting session, this one. Microsoft Teams is a hot topic right now. Jumping over to Matt first for the first question. What are the most common purchase drivers for a Microsoft Teams integrated contact center nowadays?
Yeah, so organizations that are already committed to the Microsoft Teams vision. That's the reason they want a Teams integrated contact center. They're committed to the Microsoft Teams vision, and they're looking for a cohesive and simple to enable solution. We hear that over and over. We don't want this complex spin up period that's really complicated. And they want functionality, call queuing functionality goes beyond what Microsoft already does. Microsoft Teams already does. Advanced routing methods, real-time analytics, custom and self-service IVR call flows, and even recording in the same, pane of glass. So it's a very simple thing to implement.
Thanks, Matt. And Philip.
Yeah, Matt kind of rounded it up quite well. What I can add there is, or emphasize again on is, when you really go with a Teams investment or a Microsoft investment, then it's really key to have the contact center piece within there as well. So not having another silo next to it. Probably rip that out, get rid of that, because otherwise the business case just doesn't run, right? You made the business case getting Teams replacing the PBX, and typically IT doesn't focus that much on the contact center until it comes to the point, we're going to move that. And then attendant or auto attendant call queues, which are built-in Teams functionality delivered by Microsoft, are not serving what they actually need. And then they come and look for Teams integrated or Teams native contact center, and they're really the key we see customer really move to is, I don't want to have another silo again, right? I don't want to have to build something out again. I would like to I'm used with Teams with these fast adoption. I probably don't need all the feature and pops and nibbles I had day one. I probably can live with less, but it is in an evolving schema. So every 3 weeks gets an update. Some of the features were added. That's all in the cloud. And this is really what people approaching us at least are looking for, that it fits their overall communication strategy. It goes into Teams and it delivers natively a SaaS, and they have also SaaS billing, all that stuff on that platform. This is really what we see customers are asking when they're approaching us. and as well getting all those add-ons where they need to have on top, or where they need to replace their PBX. Matt mentioned there is compliance recording, call recording in a simpler way when it's not into compliance, or attendant console on top of those queuing and contact center functionality. They're really looking for getting that out of one single provider, so they don't have to mix that with many vendors, and see how this is integrated into their overall Microsoft platform, Microsoft ecosystem, into their Microsoft all-in strategy.
Great, thanks, Philip. And Peter?
Actually, I just can back the guys just said. Maybe one aspect, and I don't want to blame everything on the pandemic, but basically, from some extent, this is a benefit specifically for Microsoft, that the pandemic and the work from home really made more use of collaboration software, and Teams being one of the one that benefit from that. And at the same time, the economic issues and the kind of decommissioning the overlapping capabilities and enterprises, actually that's just what was mentioned earlier, made companies think of how they can consolidate all their workloads, including the contact center, on the collaboration platform or UC platform that they are using. So that's where we see really a big interest. So that's a main purchase driver. Also, we shouldn't neglect the fact that Skype for Business is going away, and we do have customers on top of Skype for Business running their contact center and their businesses on Skype for Business. So they need to also have a migration path to the team-based contact center. So they are also an important persona or target market or purchase driving factor that is basically.
Great, thanks, Peter. Some really good comments. I'm going to jump back to Philip on this one, I think, first. But technically, without being too technical, if you can, Philip, how easy is it to integrate a contact center environment with Teams in 2021?
If it's native Teams, an hour. I mean, back in our history, it was kind of funny. We had about 5 years until we had about 60 customers running on our installation or on our products. Now we launched our Nimbus a couple of weeks back, and in the first 4 weeks we already onboarded 60 customers, which we actually had in the first 5 years. And from a 2 to 3 months project, it all came down to about an hour, right? So it is really easy. If you build that SaaS, if you build that native into Teams, it is really, really easy to get even the contact center functionality up and running in that. And without being too technical, good you say that, because technical background is not needed anymore. So there is no Skype for Business join, there is nothing you basically need to do to get it up and running. And what we see as a tremendous advantage, this technical stuff goes away so that business can focus on the business rather than on the technical side. So they can do their call flows themselves, they can do changes themselves in the call flows, changing an announcement, changing opening hours. That's really a driver, what we see, what people look for when they would look for the native contact center in Teams, right? And this SaaS model all makes it really, really easy to get new customers on board, to get them the possibility to do their stuff at the point where they would like to do it, and adopt to the agile world, which is all around us, right? Before that, 5 years ago, we had a project, 1 month, getting some changes in. Yeah, that's happening now in SaaS, or now in the agile world where we live in. It's all about, hey, I figured out last week it doesn't work. I would like to change it over the weekend or even over a night and get it up and running next day. And with our kind of possibility to easily configure that, it's really the technical stuff is completely gone away from my point of view, because you don't need to have any technical knowledge to build a contact center today on Teams anymore, because it's just integrated, runs everywhere, and that's really the nice story. The next step, probably you don't have all the little tweaks and possibilities, you have on your Genesys or on the Avaya contact center, but certainly if you ask yourself as a customer, do we still need that, or do we really better focus on the agile stuff? So we probably don't need all the nibbles now. but in the future, but we really focus on the agile. Would like to be fast, and what you see with Teams as well. Teams is adopting and evolving so fast. Every week, every 2 week, you get updates. People get starting used to that. So we really encourage that as well with our solution, pushing that out to the market. And that the technology depth you need to make that one happen is really not that big anymore, or probably gone away, if you would like to say it a little bit stronger.
Well, that's good. Peter, from your perspective, how easy is it from your end?
Overall, I would say it's easy indeed. I think there is one fact that we need to acknowledge, that those APIs that were needed to be able to provide the native contact center functionality, we were waiting for those quite a lot, because there were other priorities at Microsoft side. So that was something that did not help us. But basically, this is where we could use our experience and working with other technologies as well to try to rather evolve our solution and use some of the feature sets outside of Teams if there was no API yet, and evolve to the native once they were coming, and once they are coming, because there are still some APIs to come. And some examples like a call control and being able to transfer, conference, consult, this type of things, that we had to do some engineering work so that we provide the same seamless experience to the agents that we used to use and used to have before on other contact centers, and not to have some sort of trade-off here being on Teams. At the same time, having the access to all the ecosystem of Microsoft, because basically on the previous question when we talked about that, the entire Microsoft ecosystem helps us here, because if someone goes to that direction, it is pretty easy to use all the other services like the BI, the CRM integration, cognitive services mentioned, both services. So basically those were really there that we could use and add to the digital channels, so we could enhance the digital channels basically earlier than the native call handling capabilities arrived on Microsoft Teams. So basically, in summary, it is by now easy, but that's where we really used our engineering to make sure that we can provide that easy user experience on provisioning and the end agent experience as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So you've done the hard bit, so the customer doesn't. So I like that. Matt, what's it like from your perspective?
Yes, well, I'll give, since the rest have kind of talked about that it's super easy, and really our goal has been to make it think of it like a toggle. I want contact center functionality. That is the way we want to make it. From a user perspective, an administrator, a generalist IT person comes to the Teams app or our web app, they sign in with an Azure Active Directory user, and then give permissions to the contact center to run in the Teams tenant, and it's going. Literally, that process can take as little as 5 minutes. It's really, think of it as a toggle. I want contact center functionality. And then after that, you're going to do some more generalist IT kind of things that you're already used to doing in Microsoft Teams, like creating resource accounts, some of those things. So it's really straightforward. Like Philip said, it's literally underneath an hour for the technical parts. The things that really take the time are IT getting the permissions, being allowed to grant the permissions. It's really more process things that take the time than the technicals. We really are down to a generalist IT person being able to get going. And as Philip said as well, we get this call, this kind of urgent call. Hey, over the weekend, we'd like to swing over to your contact center. Can we do that? Well, the answer is in 2021. With a, contact center powered by Teams, you can literally do that, and people do that.
Great. So now we know that it's pretty straightforward to get up and running with native Microsoft Teams solutions. I wanted to ask a question about kind of, I suppose, almost comparing conventional contact center solutions with Microsoft Teams. So Peter, I'd like to go to you first on this one, but what are there any advantages to using a native Microsoft Teams contact center, and are there any trade-offs, would you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so absolutely there are some advantages, and I think these are all connected. So basically, those who are using a given UC platform and collaboration platform within the enterprise, it's no longer than there is another cloud service or there is another contact center that they need to manage, learn, and run. So this is a big advantage, and also working on the enterprise contact center world, having our heritage, we could see how big challenge that was to move people to home and give that flexibility that comes natively with Teams. So this is a massive advantage. So basically, agents can be anywhere, with all the controls, all the compliance, all the recording coming with the solution itself. And also, I would like to add that given advantage that the entire Microsoft ecosystem, so basically adding additional bits and pieces from the Microsoft space, like if you need any automation, any integration with your legacy system, you just spin up a Power App and you integrate to your Teams contact center and give it a go. So that's a massive advantage. Of course, you may say that there are the big vendors who have really feature-rich contact center functionality, but basically that's where companies like here in this call can help a lot and use the experience we gained over the decades of operating on this enterprise contact center area and add those. But it's not to replicate all of those, but to make sure that we are delivering the contact center of 2021 that is very different than it was even 10 years ago. So basically here we can leapfrog some time and provide such functionality within the Teams contact center that can even beat some of the big vendors. But of course, we need to tailor to the specific target market and target segment to make sure that we are delivering the necessary features.
That's good. And Matt, anything to add?
Yeah, is it fair to compare a Teams contact center with a conventional contact center? And my answer is yes and no. So yes, it's comparable in that you can replace a conventional contact center. And no, because it goes beyond in the sense that a true Teams contact center brings your customer's experience right into the center of your existing Microsoft daily workflow. So instead of having it off to the side, it comes right into the center. And so you have, of course, right inside Microsoft Teams, you can connect to Power Automate, Power BI, Power Apps, SharePoint, all the Microsoft stuff. You're sitting right at the center and you're connected to it really tightly. Imagine your contact center being plugged directly into all that power and possibilities. All the things that Microsoft is continually iterating and bringing new cool stuff. You're sitting right at the middle and just short, tight connections to that. Things like being able to call route via data that's already in SharePoint or Excel or your line of business app. Just very simply, and this is not like complex, week-long, customizations, but something you can do, just snap your fingers and do it real quick. Being able to trigger things that put something in a Microsoft list, some contact center event that triggers that and just snaps it right in there into a Microsoft list. Or call pops designed with Power Apps. So you guys already know Power Apps, they know what they're doing, and they can make your call pops using that. Really nice analytics using Power BI. Microsoft Teams is your hub for everything, including contact center and customer interactions. We can do this kind of stuff now, and it's really, really cool.
Thanks, Matt. Lots in there. Hey, Philip, anything else to add to that one?
Oh yeah, I think it's not fair. An easy answer. I'm not with Matt on that. Or probably I am. I got all the advantages Matt mentioned, and this is all built into the product. But think of it when we started developing our new solution about 2.5 years ago, and it was so nice as we started from scratch, but with the knowledge what we had to build. With all those integration as we need to deliver that, as Matt said, Power BI, you basically take the whole Microsoft ecosystem as a base and you're integrated into that. So that's it, right? you can use all those functionalities, and with Power Apps and Power BI and all those words, just get it done or get it used because it's in that environment. However, I think at a certain point in time, do you need all those nibbles you had in the old contact center? Do you still need that? Do you still have the customers around you who are asking for the stuff you wanted to configure in a contact center 5 years ago? I think the environment has changed, so other requirements are more important than building the same what we had in a traditional contact center or a conventional contact center today again on Teams. I think that's not the way, or at least not the way we approach that, because on every feature we built on the new solution, we thought, hey guys, do we still need them? Do we still CRM integration? Oh no, there is Power Automate. Yeah, we're gonna leverage that. Or do we have to have all those flexibility people use to get some flexibility out of the IT department? And with Teams, and when you live in that ecosystem, you see the self-service, you see this agile world, you see empower the kind of business user in adopting fast to a change in the customer needs, in their customer needs, which is much, much more important for us to deliver that functionality so that the business owner can configure call flows themselves, can do all the stuff they need in a daily contact center operations, rather than giving him much flexibility in any other thing. He probably just builds around that issue that he is not able to agile adapt to his customer needs at the point he needs it. So coming back to your question, I think we shouldn't compare that. Of course, the use case needs to be delivered within Teams, and when you are in the Teams ecosystems, when you run within Teams, then it's just so nice to leverage all those around. And as well, just an easy one, screen share. Do screen share with a traditional contact center. You probably need a whole stuff of environment building around it, but in Teams, it's basically there. It's an additional modality on a call. So if you call internally, you can use screen share afterwards. Or as we have now learned from Ignite, ACS to Teams is coming out. So why not just using this bridge as a customer bring into Teams and then transfer the call to an expert within your environment you're using? That's what we think about the Teams contact center as of today.
So thanks, Philip. I wanted to talk about kind of next steps really now. So Matt, from your perspective, what advice would you give a company setting off on their Teams contact center journey?
Yes. So if you're thinking about Teams contact center, you probably already have crossed the Teams bridge. But if not, if you're thinking, Teams and contact center, we're just going to replace that with something else, I would say ensure that Teams fits your culture. That is one thing you're going to do. You probably already crossed that bridge if you're looking at a Teams contact center, but that's a number one. Maybe a second thing, as we help people technically implement, maybe walk before you run, in the sense of understand the voice part of it. If you're going to be doing contact center, make sure you understand the voice part. Sometimes we have people coming and they have Teams and they're just kind of like bypassing the voice part. I'd say walk before you run, know something about Teams calling first. And then make sure that the Teams contact center solution fits your needs. Make sure it fits your needs. And maybe one of the things I would mention is there are kind of two categories of contact centers. We're talking about the native, we're kind of saying maybe native or integrated, but there's the powered solutions, they're emerging and nimble and all the things that Philip, Peter, and myself have said. And then there's the Connect solutions, and they're more mature. They have all the twiddly knobs and buttons. They're more loosely connected to Teams, and it feels like you're kind of maybe more managing two different systems, but more complex. If you're looking at a Connect solution, it's not that toggle and you're running. It's going to be more complicated than that. So that's another thing to think about. Make sure it fits your needs and you know what you're getting.
Great, some great tips there. Peter, any advice?
Well, come and talk to us. That's the first advice. But to be serious, basically, same thing. So basically, everyone needs to pinpoint the requirements. So they need to understand what is important. If a UI, nice UI, or supervisor barging, reporting, what is the most important part of your contact center operation, and make sure you understand what you get from your vendors. So it's best to do the shortlist and understand what they have, what's the roadmap, how fast they can react to the changes on the Microsoft Teams roadmap changes, because as mentioned earlier, this is really an agile ecosystem we are in. So there are new stuff coming on Microsoft Teams itself. So you need to make sure that the vendor you choose is really up to speed and implementing those changes. So should be part of these groups around Microsoft that has early access to all of this technology. Also, I think one important thing that we talked about, integration. So when you run a contact center, it's not a standalone, not an island, but it's part of your business. And if you run your business, if you have your legacy application or you are building an application, it's really important to make sure that that really works with your contact center solution as well. And also, if you have very special requirements, then understand what you can do and how much you need to rely on the given vendor, and if they have professional services or if they are working with partners who can help you on that journey. Because as said, it should be super easy to set this up rather on the business side, but still it's good to have a holding hand. Also, when you choose a vendor, you may have some specific requirements at that point, but think about the next step. So maybe you are just interested on voice at the start, but you have an omni-channel digitization journey. So be ready how you handle the digital channels, the chatbots, and all the other email, and all the other channels that may come into your contact center journey. So basically, it's not easy, but once you are in this team space already, this really narrows down your choice, and is still you have a great variety of solutions that you can choose from.
Great, thanks, Peter. And Philip?
Yeah, there is no much to add here. Make sure you select. I think it comes more down to a vendor selection on, is the strategy the right? Right. When Matt said this is integrate or power and extend models, so there is a difference in those models, and really make sure the vendor, when you need something in the call center journey or when you would like to do something there, make sure that the vendor is really capable of adopting to Teams changes fast. I think that's key. Not have a solution out today which never change over the last year, because then it will never be able to adopt to changes within Teams. And yeah, I think I'm really honest, try to think a little bit different and not just don't just come with a feature list and you would like to have A as well, but in green. The advice is start thinking out of the box. So when you would like to have something else on Teams, there is exactly the point where you change your PBX as well. It's probably also the right time to think about when you get a feature list from the contact center owner or so, do they really need that? And start the discussion with us. Well, let's bring it this way and see if we really need all those things, rather than coming I need this again just on Teams, and this doesn't work out, because the change in methodology, in how this works, and how agile it is, in the additional benefits you probably do not have on your feature list today, is just tremendous. On the other side as well, I think any of us is not able to deliver the feature set we have in our on-prem products as well. Because there are some limitations in API, Microsoft is not making as fast as as we would like it. Let's put it this way. However, when you would like to make Teams Contact Center today natively integrated in Teams, and this is probably the most overrated word here when you talk native, and everyone uses that, but really make sure that you think out of the box and ask yourself, what do we really need, and probably what other stuff is also not on my list yet, where I would like to invest in, or where I'd like to look into that. I probably bring that up with a jet ski example. It's probably not as fancy to ride a jet ski in a pool, but it's really, really fancy to ride a jet ski on a lake. Makes much more fun, and that's what we heard before about having your silo next to it. It's not that nice to have a contact center as a silo anymore if you can use it into your broader communication where you're going to use it anyway in your day-to-day office communication.
Excellent. So some great advice there. And to round today's session up, I wanted to talk about the future. So I think, Peter, if I could go to you first on this one, I mean, what should we expect to see from Microsoft going forward? I mean, are we going to see more kind of innovation from Microsoft in the world of kind of customer experience, or are they going to rely on more the kind of ISVs to kind of take the CX piece forward? What do you think?
Yeah, well, we are under NDA with Microsoft, so there are things I cannot share, but we truly believe that they are rather heading on that journey they had, work with ISVs and enhance more on the APIs, and then more and more API capabilities on the platform, so enable APIs, enable the vendors, the ISVs to deliver this. Well, as with Skype for Business, where we had the response group, we have co-queuing here, but that's not enough for a decent contact center. So that's where definitely the ISVs are counted. But as said, the APIs are coming, and with the introduction of Azure Communication Services, that just shows that Microsoft is kind of heading to that direction of likes of Twilio's when they provide the APIs. They did it the other way around. So Twilio first created the APIs, and then solutions like Flex on top of the APIs. Microsoft first created Teams and then opening up the underlying technology as API. But we really see a lot of potential as ISV on this market and add those rich features on top of the platform.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Philip, what's the future hold?
That's a good question. No one knows, right? However, when we talk about Microsoft and they're doing contact center, I think it's still Microsoft is very much into cookie cutter software. We have what we sell what we have, and contact center or customer service is more into trying to understand the customer, doing it in a way he would like to, and that's not Microsoft license sell business. So I see a couple of movements into that direction, but I'm completely not afraid because, as Peter said before, right, there have been response groups. Now there is auto-attendant call queues. Yes, they deliver some stuff, but when you really would like to use more, then that's just not enough. And Microsoft has been building their very good success within cloud as well on APIs. And I think on this one, it's just another one where they're going to rocket through the APIs, and they still have the competitors in the collab space. So they have to fight against Zoom, they have to fight against the other in that space, and they just don't have the bandwidth. Even Microsoft doesn't have the bandwidth to focus on such, let's say, a small market. It's not as big. Luber is 100 employees this year, so it's not a Microsoft size where we are able to deliver that. So it's not of interest for them. It just needs to be done to get Teams the full story out, and that's why Microsoft delivers the APIs, and customers can choose from multiple different vendors where they're here today as well, and there are a couple of others out in the market too. So there is competition, and competition makes us better. And that's really great, and I like that one. And I see a good future, especially if even more and more move on to Teams, and after using it internally for IM and collaboration, also for voice, that they're going to need a contact center at a certain point, which is interesting for us.
Good stuff. Thank you so much. And Matt, finally.
Yeah, what is in the future? Well, Microsoft plans to continue to build out the calling APIs. I think Peter alluded to that. We don't have the precise features. We can't let you know what that is, but we can tell you that they're going to continue to be building out the APIs. The second thing I would say is they're going to continue to work to address those simple, informal queuing scenarios. Like in the past, we had RGS and auto attendance. They're gonna work on that and keep massaging that and make it better. But those advanced routing and advanced situations, they're going to look to ISVs to just offload, kind of like Philip said, offload that to someone else that can take care of that piece of it. And one indicator of that is Microsoft has put a lot of work into their Teams contact center program. And so that communicates a pretty deep commitment to leading on ISVs for contact centers.
Thanks, Matt. Lots of insights there. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, it's been super speaking to you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Rob. It was a pleasure.
Thank you,
to meet
Rob.
Yep, always enjoy talking.
And that's it from us. If you've enjoyed today's session, please subscribe to CX Today News and give this video a quick share on social. It's always appreciated. And if you're a CX fan and want to be part of the conversation, you can join us using the CX News hashtag on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Our social links are in the description. I'm Rob Scott from CX Today. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.